Today I'm going to be demonstrating how to make an Ethernet cable. You can use this technique to repair Ethernet cables that you already have, or you can get a box of Cat5 like I have here and just make whatever length cables you want. It's pretty simple. You only need a few tools. So you're going to need one of these, which is a crimper. You can get these at Home Depot. The cheap basic ones are probably like 20 bucks. You don't necessarily need one of these. This is a, I don't know what you call it actually. It's just a wire stripper, but you actually rotate it around the wire. I'll show that off in a second. You can get away with a regular wire stripper. If you have one, it's just a little bit more work. And then you'll need some sort of cutting tool. I use this, but if you have some side cutters like these, that'll also work. And then you're going to need some crimp connectors here. These come in packs of like 20 or something. Again, you can get them at Home Depot. And obviously some cable. Again, you can buy bulk cable at Home Depot. It's probably a little cheaper online, but it's usually like $100 for a 1,000-foot box or something in that. And if you don't make many cables, that'll last you maybe the rest of your life. So the first thing you want to do is just cut off the end of the cable here. I had mine taped up for whatever reason, and then pull out as much as you want. So I'm going to make kind of a short cable today, so maybe just something like this. I don't know how much this is. I'm sure I'll use it someday. So once you have your cable cut to length, then what you're going to want to do is start preparing the ends of the wire. So that's where this thing comes in handy. So what I like to do is I like to open this up a little bit as I'm scrolling it toward the minus side. This little blade here is raising up, and then you want to strip off a generous amount of the wire, so just go ahead and put the end of the cable in there. And then I like to tighten it down a little bit just so that it's barely squeezing the outside of the jacket, and then you just go around a couple times and then it pulls right off. Ideally, you want to check where you just cut and make sure you didn't cut through any of the inner conductors. Sometimes that happens. If it does, just snip off this end here and try it again. Raise the blade up on your cutter a little bit so that it doesn't cut through to the inner conductors. Next, you want to take this little fiber here and just give it a snip. Not all cables have this. This is generally going to be in like the bulk cable that you have, like I have here. It's just for structural reinforcement or something like that. Okay, so now that you have that done, you want to separate out your individual conductors. So next, what you want to do is arrange the conductors in order. So start with the orange and put that on the left side, and then you're going to go with the green, blue, and then brown. And then what you want to do is untwist the pairs on all of these, and we're going to have to do a little bit of rearranging here because they're not actually pairwise the whole time. So the order goes white, orange, orange, white, green. So when I say white, green, I mean green with a white stripe, or white with a green stripe really in this cable. White, green, and then you want to pull the green out of the way. Then you're going to untwist the blue pair. Put the blue next to the white, green, the white, blue next to the blue, then the green, and finally the brown pair. White, brown, and brown. So if you notice, we have the green is split, the white, green, and green are split apart, and then the blue is in between them. But the order of this, if you have trouble remembering the white stripe colors versus the solids, it's always going to be stripe, solid, stripe, solid, stripe, solid, stripe, solid. So the exception here is just that the green, white, green pair surrounds the blue. So the next thing we need to do after this is we need to get all these cables lined up so that we can actually stick them in the connector. And so the easiest way that I've found to do this is sort of just to take your fingers and sort of just shimmy the wires back and forth like so. So just oscillate your fingers back and forth. And ideally you can do this without accidentally rearranging the wires. I've done this many times, so I usually get it right. But sometimes they'll get out of order and you'll have to mess with them after you do this, but if so, just repeat the process again until you get them in the right order and nice and straight. So as you can see there, they are still in order, and then they're nice and straight. And this just makes it easier to put it into the connector. So then what I like to do is I want to cut off the rest of these, and I keep about a finger length of wire remaining. If you cut it too short, the conductors are not going to go all the way into the end of the connector. If you cut it too long, you're going to have trouble getting the jacket all the way into the connector. So just go ahead and cut off those wires, and generally you want to do this over a trash can or some container so that you don't get wire fragments in your carpet. So now that we have that, we're going to go ahead and slide on the connector. So you want to do this with the little tab facing down, so you can see the connectors when you're doing this. So just gently slide the wires in there, verify that it's in order, and then what you're really looking for is it's hard to see in this camera here, but you really want these conductors to be touching the end. It's quite hard to see, but you just want to gently wiggle the cable back and forth, squeezing down on the jacket here so that the conductors are actually being pushed toward the end. Mine looks pretty good right now. I know it's hard to tell on this camera, but you'll be able to see the copper ends of the conductors through the connector there at the end, and then you know you're good. Just quick check on both sides. And then you want to grab the jacket down a little further and then push the jacket up as much as possible. It'll generally stop like right about there. You just want to make sure you have enough jacket in there, because part of this connector here, where my thumb is, actually squeezes down on the jacket, and that's just going to help make sure the wires don't get pulled out at the end. So once you have that, go ahead and grab your crimp tool. And mine has phone jack size 6 conductor and 8 conductor, or 8 pin here. So the 8 pin is for Ethernet. And then you go ahead and stick the connector in there, and then just give it a squeeze. Let go. That's it. Now you should be able to pull on it and it shouldn't come out, and you've got yourself a pretty decent Ethernet cable.